The history of Starbucks is a really interesting one because it didn't start out like how we know it today. You know, they were doing some shady things in the beginning that would eventually lead them to become the global giant that we know today. But before any of that, we have to start with the very beginning. In 1971, three friends named Jerry Baldwin, Zev Siegel, and Gordon Boker decided to open up a coffee shop in Seattle. And their intention was to sell high-quality roasted coffee beans, not just coffee, but tea as well. They wanted to create a place that had a comfortable atmosphere where people could come in and enjoy a wide range of beverages made with the finest ingredients. And this was at a time when the coffee industry was dominated by large chains that were mass-producing their coffee rather than focusing on quality. These three founders wanted to do something different. They spent several months looking for the perfect location and finally settled on a spot in the Pike's Place Market in downtown Seattle. This market was known for its fresh seafood and produce, and they thought it would be a great place to open their coffee shop. But there was one problem. The landlord of the building didn't allow them to install an espresso machine, which was essential to their business plan. So instead of giving up, they came up with a solution. They would simply serve brewed coffee and tea and sell the coffee beans whole or ground. So on March 1971, Starbucks opened its doors for the first time. During the first few years of operation, the business remained small-scale with only one store in Seattle. However, the quality of their coffee and commitment to customer service quickly built up a loyal following, and word of mouth spread throughout the city. By 1976, they decided to expand outside of Pike's Place Market, opening additional locations in Seattle and beyond. They also began roasting their own coffee beans, which allowed them to control the quality of their product even more closely. But during this time, they faced challenges such as competition from other coffee shops and economic downturns. However, the founders remained committed to their vision of providing high-quality coffee and a unique customer experience. Then in 1982, Starbucks had a turning point. Howard Schultz joined the company as director of marketing and soon became passionate about the business. He traveled to Europe and observed the popularity of espresso bars and saw an opportunity to bring this concept to the United States. When he returned to Starbucks, he suggested expanding the menu to include espresso drinks, pastries, and sandwiches. At first, the founders were unsure about this idea as they wanted to keep the focus on coffee, but they agreed to give it a try. Schultz opened the first Starbucks espresso bar in 1984, which quickly became popular among customers. It wasn't long before he realized that his vision for Starbucks was different from that of the founders. He wanted to grow the company into a national chain, whereas they were happy with keeping it small and local. This led to a disagreement, and Schultz decided to leave the company in 1985, but he wasn't done with the coffee business. He took the money he had saved at Starbucks and borrowed some from his family and friends to open his own coffee shop called Il Giornale. Meanwhile, Starbucks continued to grow under the leadership of the original founders. They expanded to new cities and experimented with different products. In 1987, they introduced the Frappuccino, a blended coffee drink that quickly became one of their most popular items. However, despite the success, the founders knew that the company needed a new direction if it was going to continue growing. They had reached a point where they were no longer able to manage the day-to-day operations while still focusing on long-term strategy. So they started looking for a new CEO. After interviewing several candidates, they decided to bring Howard Schultz back to the company. When Schultz returned to Starbucks, he set about transforming the company into a national chain. He implemented a new business model that focused on vertical integration, meaning that the company would control every aspect of the supply chain from growing the coffee beans to brewing the final cup. He also placed a strong emphasis on customer service and created a culture of empowerment among employees. Schultz's leadership paid off. Starbucks went public in 1992 and began expanding rapidly. But not everything was perfect. In 1993, Starbucks was rocked by a major scandal when one of its suppliers was found to be using mislabeled and low-quality coffee beans. This damaged the company's reputation for quality and forced them to take action. Starbucks responded by implementing stricter quality control measures and by becoming one of the first coffee companies to directly source its beans from farmers. This meant that they could control the quality of their product even more closely and ensure that the farmers were being paid a fair price for their work. Despite these setbacks, Starbucks continued to grow. In 1996, they expanded internationally, and by 2000, they had over 3,000 stores worldwide. However, this rapid expansion led to some growing pains. As the company got bigger, it became harder to maintain the same level of quality and customer service. There were also internal problems, such as conflicts between management and employees. To address these issues, Starbucks began investing in new technologies such as online ordering and mobile payment systems. They also focused on training employees to provide a more personalized customer experience. But even with these efforts, Starbucks faced challenges. In 2008, the Great Recession hit and people's spending habits changed. Coffee was no longer seen as an essential item, and consumers began cutting back. To cope with this, Starbucks introduced new lower-cost options, such as the Via Instant Coffee line. They also focused on retaining existing customers rather than acquiring new ones. Despite these challenges, Starbucks has continued to innovate. They've expanded their menu to include a variety of new drinks and food items. They've also invested in sustainability initiatives such as reducing waste and sourcing ethically produced coffee. Today, Starbucks is still the largest coffeehouse chain in the world with over 33,000 stores in more than 80 countries. But it hasn't been without its controversies. In recent years, the company has been accused of mistreating its employees and of contributing to the over-extraction of coffee beans. Despite these criticisms, Starbucks remains a popular destination for coffee lovers around the world. And its story is a testament to the power of innovation and customer focus. So that's the story of how Starbucks went from a small local coffee shop to a global powerhouse. I want to ask you, what's your favorite thing at Starbucks? Let me know in the comments section below. Also, before you go, if you learned something new or enjoyed this video, please give it a like. That way you won't miss any videos in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.